Hello and welcome to Weekly China Recap. I'm Xing Zheming. This week, we are connecting the dots across several key developments in China, each reflecting both the complexity and the fast-changing nature of the country's trajectory. For our international audience, these updates are worth paying close attention to because they show not only how China is recalibrating its domestic governance, but also how these changes ripple outward globally. Let's begin with the revision of China's arbitration law. For the first time in 3 decades, this legal framework has been comprehensively overhauled, and the new version will take effect in March 2026. Until now, China's arbitration framework was viewed as too domestically focused and sometimes opaque for international players. A central focus of the reform is to strengthen rules for foreign-related arbitration. This is not just a technical legal update. It's about signaling to the world that China is ready to expand its role in international dispute resolution. The law encourages qualified international arbitrators to set up operations in China while also empowering Chinese arbitrators to expand abroad. China's move is designed to reassure global companies that the country is not just a place to manufacture or sell, it's a place where legal certainty can be found. But there is also a strategic layer. Beijing wants Shanghai and Shenzhen to compete with Singapore, Hong Kong, and London as arbitration hubs. Whether global businesses will trust China's system to be fully independent is still an open question, but the intent is clear. China is no longer content to just be a participant. It wants to shape the rules of the game. At the same time, multiple government departments issued a sweeping plan to boost service consumption, from culture, sports, and tourism to training, high-end medical services, and elderly care. This is part of China's ongoing effort to shift its economic engine away from property and infrastructure and toward consumption and services. The policy introduces creative measures, like adding more short school breaks for students to increase family travel, expanding the list of countries eligible for visa-free entry, and encouraging more international sports events. The government even announced a pilot program in 50 cities to test new service consumption scenarios, with local governments competing to earn the pilot city title. The broader message here, China wants services to do the heavy lifting and supporting growth, while also opening more doors to private and foreign investors. The big question, of course, is whether the government can truly allow the private sector enough space to thrive instead of leaning on state-backed giants. The energy sector also saw a major development. The National Development Reform Commission, together with the National Energy Administration, unveiled a 3-year action plan to scale up new energy storage systems. This plan comes with an investment package worth 250 billion yuan. To put that number into perspective, that's about $35 billion, larger than the annual GDP of some small countries. Why energy storage? Because renewable power like wind and solar is intermittent. You can build massive solar farms in Mongolia, but if you can't store that electricity, it doesn't help the grid when the sun goes down. We're talking about batteries, pumped hydropower storage, and other technologies that are vital if China is to meet its green energy and AI-driven industrial ambitions. For the world's largest manufacturer and one of the most energy-hungry economies, storage capacity is not a luxury. It's an absolute necessity. This announcement shows China is serious about restructuring its energy system, but it also highlights the sheer scale of investment required to sustain high-tech growth while pushing toward carbon neutrality. The goal is to have 60 gigawatts of new storage capacity installed by 2027, enough to power tens of millions of homes. But there are challenges. Local governments want to build projects quickly, companies want subsidies, and the central government wants a unified, reliable system. Balancing these pressures will determine whether this plan succeeds or creates another bubble. On the environmental front, China passes its first national parks law, set to take effect in January 2026. This law formalizes the framework for ecological protection across national parks, aiming to safeguard biodiversity while balancing the needs of local communities. It's another example on how China is institutionalizing its environmental governance, though the challenge will be enforcement, ensuring that local governments and industries comply with ecological rules even as they pursue economic goals. But while new laws and investments are being rolled out, the labor market remains a serious challenge. China has now recorded its highest ever youth unemployment rate. This year, according to statistics offered by China's Ministry of Education, 12.2 million students are graduating, 430,000 more than last year. And the slowing economy has left many struggling to find jobs. The government is scrambling to push universities to better align education with market demand, but the mismatch is glaring. This is not just a cyclical issue, it cuts to the heart of China's growth model. If an entire generation feels shut out of the economy, the social implications could be significant. So, what do all these developments tell us? On one hand, Beijing is trying to project stability and ambition, opening its arbitration system, stimulating service consumption, pouring investment into energy, and legislating environmental protections. On the other hand, the cracks are visible. Youth unemployment is soaring, income growth is lagging, and the private sector still operates in a climate where state-backed giants dominate. For international observers, the lesson is clear. China is complex, and it is changing fast. Each new policy tells part of the story, but to truly understand China, you have to connect the dots. And when you do, the picture is both promising and unsettling. China has the momentum for growth, but sustaining it will require deeper structural reforms, particularly empowering the private sector and giving households the confidence and income to spend. That's it for this week's Weekly China Recap. I'm Xing Zheming. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.